Secretary Stackley, Mr. Ronald Reagan used to say, facts are stubborn things. You painted a rather rosy picture, but facts are that the LCS was initially expected to cost $220 million per ship. That was the testimony before this committee. The cost is now doubled to $478 million. The first LCS needed combat capability and mine countermeasures was supposed to be delivered in 2008. That capability is still not operational, nor is it expected to be until 2020, 12 years late. You have served as the Navy's acquisition executive for the past 8 years. Who is responsible and who should be held accountable for a doubling of the cost of the ship, delivery of 12 years late, and obvious difficulties which I will mention in later questioning? Who's responsible and who's been held accountable?
Sir, let me start with the reference to the $220 million ship. That number that dates back to the 2004-2005 timeframe, everybody here would absolutely agree that was unrealistic. And
no, I would not, because it was testified before this committee that that would be the cost per ship. In retrospect, we see that it was unrealistic, but at the time, this committee and this Congress, which approved it, was on the basis of $220 million per ship. If we had been told it was $478 million and 12 years late for some of the programs, I don't think that this committee and the Congress of the United States would have approved it, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, sir. I'm telling you that the $220 million number was unrealistic.
Why was it unrealistic to tell the Congress of the United States?
Sir, I agree. This Congress was led to believe that the ship would cost $220 million. That was an unrealistic number that was put before the Congress in terms of a program to authorize and appropriate. The result of the lead ship going to $500 to $700 million each.
Who gave that information of $220 million per ship to the Congress and this committee? You know?
I'd have to go back to the records to see who testified. The number was directed from the top down. I can tell you that the Naval Sea Systems Command's estimate for the program at that point in time was not $220 million. That was a number that was put in place as a cost cap for the program, and they pressed on to try to achieve what could not be achieved. And industry followed suit. And we have the experience of the lead ship in terms of things that went wrong that we've been trying to recover from since.
17 years, $700 million of taxpayers' money has been sunk into the remote multi-mission vehicle. The program was canceled earlier this year due to unsatisfactory performance reliability, and the Navy formulated a new way ahead for mine countermeasures mission. For nearly a decade, the GAO has reported the Navy was buying this system before they were proven. Dr. Gilmore reported the RMMVs were not effective. Why did the Navy recommit to the RMMV in 2010 after a Nunn-McCurdy breach revealed a shoddy business case for the system to continue development?
Yes, sir. 2010 timeframe, we went through the Nunn-McCurdy process, and we looked at a couple key things. One was the performance issues that we were having with the RMMV and whether or not we believed that we could correct the reliability issues through a reliability improvement program.
And obviously you couldn't.
Correct. We failed in that assessment. We believed we could. We did a redesign effort. We did not go back and build new vehicles in accordance with the redesign. What we did was took the existing vehicles and backfit what fixes we could and took that to test.
Which obviously didn't work since now it's been abandoned, right?
Yes, sir.
One more question, Admiral. Of the major casualties encountered to date, are these issues of ship design, inferior shipbuilding quality, a lack of procedural compliance, a lack of training, or something else? Who's been held accountable? 2013, generator failures, 190, that's on the LCS-1, 195 days and $1.6 million to fix. Seawater contamination in the combining year, 20 days and $377,000. 2016, contamination of a main engine, 258 days and $12 million to fix. LCS-3, 2016, Combined gear bearings, 184 days and $5.6 million to fix. LCS-4 in 2016, water jet failure, 24 days, and we don't know the cost. To LCS-5 in 2015, high-speed clutch failure, 355 days and counting. LCS-8 in 2016, water jet failure. What's going on here, Admiral? And who's held accountable?
Yes, sir. Starting specifically back in the early part of this year, when with the Fort Worth failure associated with personnel errors on the USS Fort Worth, I started to look very hard at the training and the qualification of the men and women that serve on our ships to see if we had shortchanged them with respect to the training that they had been provided.
Who's held accountable for that? They were not well trained. Somebody's supposed to train them.
Absolutely, sir.
Was it you that was in charge of that?
I am responsible for training the men and women on these ships.
Should you be in your job?
Yes, sir. I believe I'm capable of fulfilling the responsibilities. What I did find was that the training that we had provided to the young men and women was insufficient in reviewing two casualties, and specifically the one on the Fort Worth and the one on the Freedom. These the men and women, when I stepped back and got our Surface Warfare Officer School to conduct an assessment of the engineering knowledge of the men and women on the ships, it was found to be deficient. One of the things that we found was that, and that I directed, was that we start to import much more of the training that we've been relying on for the vendors to provide to our sailors that serve on these ships. And so, given the fact that we have pulled that engineering training in, given the fact that we have are moving to get the curriculum necessary in order to be able to get the right knowledge into their heads in order to operate the propulsion plants, I think we're in a much better place going forward. Specifically associated with the accountability.
I agree, we may be better going forward, but Admiral, we are going to start holding people accountable. We're talking about millions of dollars here that were failures that you say were a problem with training. Who was responsible for the training? Wasn't someone? Wasn't it anticipated that the crew would have to be well trained to avoid these tens of millions of dollars of problems?
Absolutely, sir. And I feel that as we have operated the ships and as we have learned about these new propulsion plants.
I'm glad we have learned at the cost of the taxpayers of tens of millions of dollars. Senator